My apologies. I didn't realize I was muted. uh, there we go. Let's start that over. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us on Marstream, your public performance broadcast platform. My name is Brianna Caver, assistant producer for Marstream, and welcome to David Ford's class performances. Although our theater doors are now back open, there are still some folks unable to attend these live performances, so these free streaming performances are brought to you by patrons just like yourself, all who donate to our tip jar. The link is posted in the chat and is also available on our website at themarsh.org. Remember, all donations are tax deductible and 100% matched. We need you now more than ever so we can continue to bring these free streaming performances to our community. If you are watching us live on YouTube, welcome and thank you for joining us. Please make sure you subscribe to be notified when we go live and watch the hours of free performances, interviews, and events we have archived all right there on our channel. Be sure to check out our website for upcoming shows. Tomorrow night on Wildcard Tuesday is nothing, unfortunately. Wednesday for Solo Arts Heal, we have Anita Maria Taylor, who performs her piece Bipolar Mommy and Me at 7:30 p.m. Friday on Marstream is Marsh Bingo with Josh Kornbluth, and live at the Marsh San Francisco is Dan Hoyle's Talk to Your People at 7 p.m. Again, please donate to our tip jar. Thank you for joining us. And now let's welcome your host, David Ford.
Hi, thanks for coming to the Marsh tonight. And by the Marsh tonight, I mean my study and the homes of some of the performers you're going to see here tonight. And the material you're going to see here tonight is all new work. We've been gathering together in these Zoom spaces and trying to imagine what kind of stories and presentations might interest you all. And we don't really know what we're doing until you guys show up here to help us learn that. So thank you very much for joining us tonight. I encourage you to put comments in the chat as the evening progresses, because it really helps the performers to know what your reactions are. So without further ado, then I'd like to introduce the first performer of the evening. Here is Janet Thornburg.
Jamie, I don't know if I can do that. I've been calling you he and him for 24 years. Mama, it's important to me. All right, honey, I'll do it. I'll learn to use they and them when I talk about you. But what does it mean? It means I'm non-binary. Okay, and what's non-binary? Non-binary, being non-binary means that you feel your gender identity can't be defined by male or female. It can include elements of both. It can be fluid, or it can fall completely outside the gender binary. Oh, I've been thinking about it a lot lately. And yesterday at the Pride Parade, I saw someone carrying a sign that said they, them. And suddenly it just felt right. It was right for me. That conversation took place 3 years ago. Immediately afterward, Joanne, my former spouse, and Stacy, Jamie's younger sister, went to work on learning to use they, them. I found it fairly easy to stop using guy and fellow and boy and man when talking about Jamie, but I found it painfully slow going in trying to master they, them. Do you know how much former English teachers like to be corrected in language usage? Not very much. Do you know how hard it is to change any habit when you're 76? Pretty doggone hard. It's not surprising that Jamie rejects gender roles. His moms are lesbians, his dad is gay. And his dad is gay. So we look back to see where it all came from. As a child, Jamie was gentle, sweet, and incredibly empathetic. They were also the shortest kid in their first grade class. Joanne and I were nervous that they might be a prime target for bullying. So we enrolled them in the Beliso School of Martial Arts. Jamie learned the basic moves very quickly, and soon he moved up from white belt to yellow belt. He excelled at performing kata, a dance-like sequence of the basic karate moves, and he loved the nachos that Mrs. Beliso served at the end of each class. But he hated sparring with the other yellow belt students. Jamie, honey, you've got to learn to fight. No, I don't want to do it. But what if somebody tries to hurt you? I still wouldn't want to hurt them. Really? As a kid, I liked hitting my sister Patty when she made fun of me or tried to boss me around. One day, Stacy mentions that Jamie told her that I might be non-binary too. I'm surprised, but also flattered. Me, a modern radical. It's not just an old lesbian. From my earliest memories until I was 10, I was a hardcore tomboy. I had a horse. I always wore jeans to school. I got my hair cut short, really short. My dad was my hero and my protector. But when I was 10, he died of a heart attack. And my mom moved the 5 of us kids from Idaho to her hometown in Montrose, Colorado. It was a hard time. I found myself on shaky ground. No dad. Adolescence turning my world upside down. Misery. And there was Uncle Ralph. I knew about Uncle Ralph before we moved to Montrose. Almost every summer of our childhood, Mom took us to Montrose to visit our grandparents, and Uncle Ralph lived just a block away. Of the 8 siblings, he was the only one who came home and settled down in Montrose. The other aunts and uncles and cousins were all over the place. Denver, Los Angeles, Northern California, Japan, Libya. Sometimes during the summer, they also visited Montrose. All the cousins learned to stay away from Uncle Ralph. I'm 8 years old. My little brothers and I and our cousins are toasting marshmallows over the bonfire for the 4th of July. My little brothers are burning theirs, but I'm slowly turning my stick, trying to get a perfect golden brown. All of a sudden, someone pinches the back of my neck. My marshmallow flies into the fire. Hey! Watch out, Jenny Sue. You don't want to put someone's eye out swinging that sharp stick around. Uncle Ralph walks around to the edge of the other side of the fire to pinch my cousin Ellie's neck. The next day, at the goodbye lunch at Grammy and Grandfather's, I'm late getting to the long picnic table in the backyard. The only place that is open is the seat beside Uncle Ralph. So I have to sit by him. Uncle Ralph is serving mashed potatoes to paper plates and sending them down along the table. Karen, just a little for you, right? Remember, a moment on the lips, forever on your hips. And yours are getting kind of big. Ralph leans toward me. And how about you, Janny? He puts down the spoon, reaches under the red, white, and blue tablecloth and pinches my leg right above the knee. Ouch! Don't be a baby. It's all in fun. Potatoes? Since my dad died and we moved here, I've had to spend a lot more time with Uncle Ralph. Mom bought the old stone house a block away from Ralph's, and twice a month we have them over for Sunday dinner. Uncle Ralph, Annie Nida, and their 4 kids. Annie Nida is really sweet, but Ralph always pinches us and makes mean comments. It's Saturday. Annie Nida has called my mom to ask her to ask me if I would babysit tonight. I babysat in junior high, but now that I'm in high school, I've pretty much stopped. I have plans of my own on the weekend, and Uncle Ralph has gotten creepier and creepier. He always finds a reason to put his hands on me. He makes a big display of helping me on with my jacket and then rubs my back or squeezes my arm. Oh, can't you do it, Janet? She really wants to go. I don't want to babysit, but my boyfriend, Johnny Castle, has just canceled our date, so I don't have an excuse. And I like Annie Nida a lot. All right, I'll do it. 4 hours later, I am stomping up the stairs to my mother's bedroom. She's in her nightgown in bed reading a mystery book. I am never going over to Uncle Ralph's again. What happened? They got home. Nida went upstairs to check on the kids, and Ralph sneaked up behind me and put his hands up the back of my shirt on my bare skin. Cold enough for you? I'm sure he was just being playful, like he would with his own kids. No, I'm not a kid. And he's not my father. No, he's not. I hate him. I'm never going to babysit for them again. And please don't invite them over here anymore. Janet, I will invite them over. They're family. And even though Ralph irritates you, he's a fine man. He's done a lot for us. You don't understand anything, do you? The next day, Sunday, Johnny picks me up after he gets off work at the Chevron station. When he gets in the car, he says, "Sorry about last night. I had to go out to the ranch." Johnny grew up on a ranch. Then, like me, he lost his dad a few years ago. Our mom just went ahead and raised us by herself. But Johnny's mom married their ranch hand, a disgusting hunchback guy named Raleigh. Johnny can't stand him, so he moved into town with his married sister. But Johnny's little sister, Florency, still lives out on the ranch with his mom and Raleigh. I met Raleigh once. Johnny and I were walking down Main Street, and Raleigh stumbled out of the No Delay bar. Greasy Stetson hat, bloodshot eyes, a dirty sheepskin jacket. The way he looked at me made my skin crawl. I couldn't wait to get away from him. Johnny keeps the outside of his 57 Chevy sparkling clean, and inside is spotless. He doesn't say anything while he's driving up to our regular Sunday night parking place next to the graveyard on Sunset Mesa. He turns off the car and pushes the seat back. He smells faintly of gasoline. I didn't used to like that smell, but since we've been making out every Sunday when he gets off work, it turns me on more than Old Spice. Johnny's hands are red from being scrubbed, but he still has black outlines around his nails from working on cars. The knuckles of his right hand have new scabs on them. Did you hurt your hand working on your car? No. He looks out over the street lights and house lights of the town. Florency called me yesterday all upset, and I had to wait till Emmett got off work so we could go out to the ranch. Emmett is Johnny's older brother, a stocky guy who lost an arm in the Korean War. Well, what was happening with Florency? That son of a bitch, Raleigh, has been messing with her. What? But Florency's only, 12? Just turned 12. Emmett and I took him out behind the barn and beat the living daylights out of him. We told him if he ever touches Florency again, we'll kill him. Good. Do you think that's enough to stop him? I don't know. What else can we do? Kill him now? Johnny and I don't make out. We just hold each other for a long time, on the edge of crying, both of us, I think. I wish I could tell him about Uncle Ralph. I imagine him hitting Ralph in the face and breaking his glasses. Keep your hands off of her. Just keep them off. But no, Uncle Ralph is the district attorney of Montrose. So the only thing that would change is that he'd send Johnny to the reform school in Buena Vista and wreck his life. I'm 24. I'm at my mom's little white house on South 2nd Street. I quit my year-long job from hell at the Denver Department of Welfare. I don't know where I'm going to go next. Right now, I'm cleaning out the closet of what used to be my bedroom to make room for an exchange student from the Netherlands who's going to be living here. What am I going to do with all these bridesmaids' dresses? The violet one from Karen's wedding, the turquoise one from Patty's wedding, the pink one from Sandy's wedding, the bright gold one from Francie's wedding. Goodwill. I gather up the bridesmaid dresses and head down the hall. In the living room, my favorite cousin from Denver, Ellie, is chatting with my mom and Annie Nida about her upcoming wedding. I'm off to the Goodwill store. I'll go with you, Janet. I've got to stop this wedding planning. My mom and I almost killed each other before I came over here today. On the way back from the Goodwill store, we stopped to get coffee. So, Ellie, aside from fighting with your mom, are you looking forward to your wedding? I just want it to be over. But the guy you're going to marry, he's a good one, right? Not especially. Well, why are you doing it? I got tired of people asking me when I was going to find someone. Oh, you're probably worried too, Jan. About what? You know. What? Well, if I'm 23, you're almost 25. Well, not to be rude, but if you don't want people to write you off as an old maid, you've got to jump on it. An old maid? Me? Why have I never worried about that? I always have a boyfriend, sometimes two, but I never tried to catch the bouquet all those times when I was a bridesmaid. I thought it was because I didn't like weddings. scratchy dresses and pantyhose and high heels. But you know, I don't think I ever wanted to get married. After my sister Karen had her first baby, she came home and stayed with us for a few weeks. Janet, don't ever get married. It's like being dead, but even more boring. Being deadly bored or an old maid. Those are my two options. I take Ellie's advice and jump, but not into marriage, into San Francisco. San Francisco, my favorite city, where the women are strong and the men are pretty. There are so many options here that I'm intoxicated. I find kindred spirits at every job I work at. I want to stay here forever, but so do a lot of other people with higher degrees. The only jobs I can get with my bachelor's in psychology are clerical jobs. So I apply for San Francisco State and get into a master's degree program in teaching English as a second language. It's the first night of one of my elective classes, Women, Race, and Class. There are 5 women sitting at the front. One of them stands up and says, "Hello, I'm Jane Gurko. We are team teaching this class. I'm from English, Dorothy from philosophy, Joanne from psychology, and Lynn from interdisciplinary studies. And Pat Parker is a well-known San Francisco poet. We're all lesbians." I haven't ever heard anyone say that word out loud in public. Why did she announce it? Is this going to be terribly uncomfortable? Should I drop the class? All evening, I keep a close watch on all the teachers. The strange thing is, they don't seem strange at all. At the end of class, a student stands up and says, "Anybody driving to the inner Sunset? I can give you a ride." On the drive to her house, we chat about the reading list and where is the cheapest place to get the books. When we get to her house, I ask, what do you think about all those teachers being lesbians? "No big deal. You're a lesbian, aren't you?" Me? No. Why do you think so? The way you're dressed. On the way home, I keep thinking, what was that woman talking about? When I get home, I stand in front of the full-length mirror. Yeah, my hair's short. I get it cut at Joe Pinto's barbershop because haircuts are only $5 there. But lots of women have short hair. But wait, she said, it's the way I dress. Well, I'm wearing a long sleeve blue and gray plaid flannel shirt and faded Levi's. I got them from my brother Bruce. When he joined the Navy, he didn't need many civilian clothes, and I'm broke, so he gave me all his old shirts and pants. The pants are old, but they fit well. Oh, wow. Maybe that's it. Bruce kept his wallet in his back pocket, and there's a white outline faded into the denim. It does look kind of masculine. Yeah, I bet that's why that woman thought I was a lesbian. How many other people have seen that and thought I was a lesbian? Perhaps not surprisingly, I come out as a lesbian the next year. What is surprising to me is that when I finally get married, my wedding is the best party ever, mainly because of the efforts of my lovely maid of honor, Lanson be demoles.
Yay! Hey,
I want to thank Cecil for writing to me. He's engaged, and he has asked, should we buy a house with an open concept floor plan? Cecil, this is my favorite childhood book. It was given to us by a family that had more money in our small southern town. This is how life in a family looks. Beautiful, right? Everyone together like this in a lovely open concept floor plan. This is a fairy tale. I'm here to talk to you about architecture in this regard. This is an open concept floor plan. Here you are. Here's your partner. Same sex or not, doesn't matter. This is what I'm here to tell you. Do not look for an open concept floor plan. Since many people want one, whether renting or buying, this is going to save you a great deal of money. Just want to say, on the first camping trip I went on with my husband 23 years ago, before we were married, a huge fat rattlesnake was in the middle of the path. Waylon, he reminds me of Waylon Jennings, looked at the snake and maced the snake in the face. Didn't know what the snake would do. Just maced it in the face. I am no longer interested in camping. I had posted an ad on a dating site. I advertised for someone who wanted to join a crucible. Who answers an ad like that? Someone who maces rattlesnakes in the face. That's who. During the pandemic, I was camped out in the kitchen watching Fareed Zakaria, and he was camped out in the living room watching Africa with Snakes all the time. Between the living room and the kitchen, we have a table with a lovely cut glass vase. Light pouring in creates a prism. This is how I now see the inside of a marriage. This is what you know about each other before you get married. This is really all you know. That's it. And the reason you know very little is you have not been paying attention to the rattlesnakes. By month 6 of the marriage, the snakes are starting to show up. Here you are. Here's your partner. There are some issues beginning to define themselves. Could have seen it from the beginning, but did you? Now, by the end of year 1, you've got some things defined. One of you lacks boundaries, maybe both. One of you is calling names. One of you is acting out. This one over here, he's acting out. We can't talk about the nudist colony. No. And does the rest of the family know about that? No, they don't. Makes you look like the troublemaker, which that therapist told you you were, a troublemaker. But does the rest of the extended family know about the nudist colony? No. I'm talking about the therapist I saw years before I even met Waylon, when she was missing the fact that I was dating an addict my friends were calling the hamster man. Some of these therapists are not that smart. Placating. This is not what I did. I put this down, not what I did after the nudist colony. No. Now someone over here is yelling. You've got all your old wounds. I did a lot of inner work before I ever got married. It's just that marriage opens the door to a boatload of issues you never knew you had. He had done some individual talk therapy. He had done some gentle cleaning in the corners, just kind of telling a therapist a bit, kind of taking the cobwebs down on the corners of the ceiling. I, on the other hand, had done 2 years of a Harville Hendricks singles group working on containing myself. You can see how that's going. We had 17 years of recovery between us, 5 for him around substances and 12 for me around relationships. That had saved my life. And all of you who have been writing me letters that I need to meditate. I had been meditating almost an hour per day for 25 years when I met Waylon. And I had been doing a technique called focusing. Dr. Eugene Gendlin did research at the University of Chicago in the 1970s to find out what works in therapy. And what he found was if people drop into the body, they can shift and change. You sit with the body sense of what's going on in your life. I find it illuminates things. I get to see how I really feel inside. Sitting with how I felt about the first Christmas with Waylon, I felt all nested in the center of my body. Then I felt, oh no, eggs are falling out of the nest. In the next session, I'm feeling like there are beautiful, beautiful, beautiful beads around my neck as I sit with the sense of that. Oh, I feel like the way Waylon does Christmas with his mother is choking me. As I sit with the sense of these beads, they feel more like rope. This is a bowline, and this is a square knot. These are Waylon's scouting ornaments that we have to put on the Christmas tree. Aren't those nice? By the way, I found often what I was actually feeling inside was nothing like what the previous therapist had told me I was feeling. When I married Waylon, I had also had 9 years with a phenomenal therapist who was saying, Lambeth, can't you see that everyone here loves you? See what she's doing? She's basting me with love. I would say, Jennifer, you love me. These people don't love me. You love me. The therapists who are gentle are so much more effective than the ones who are confrontational. When Waylon and I met, we did 3 months of no-touch dating. From the outside, we were looking a bit miraculous. But in a marriage, you've got your old wounds, you've got your new wounds. Da, 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 da. Now you're the walking wounded. I'm doing a PSA here in case any of you single folks are thinking about getting a new partner. Now you're in crisis. You have to go to couples therapy. You have been going to a program to try to iron out, smooth out your behavior in the marriage. However, the situation at home is anything but smooth. To tell you the truth, no matter what you do in one of these individual programs, Wow! The marriage is going to continue to burn. The purpose of couples therapy is to support the couples therapist. You are going to take the measure of your childhood. This therapist wants you to see each other's pain, develop empathy for your partner. This is beyond exhausting. You are going to discuss your family of origin. You are going to discuss your mother. You're going to talk about how your mother said you could not have the furniture. We were in the dining room where my mother had her cut glass vase, that thing I had always wanted. Aunt Mimi's cut glass vase, mother's most prized possession. I knew it was going to my brother, who now had a cut glass collection. She was saying essentially the furniture also I may not have. So I said, Mother, what? When I had a southern accent. Mother, why may I tried to say it nicely. Mother, why may I not have the furniture? Because you had sex before you were married. And good point. And because you meditated. Even the bishops meditate now in her Episcopal church, but they don't meditate the way I meditate. I meditate like Ellen DeGeneres, so I don't get the furniture. Fuck it. I bought my own furniture as well as my own cut glass. My mother was like this, her daily mode of operation with me anyway, which frankly my brother did not know because we did not have an open concept floor plan. Yeah. She was in pain, I've come to realize. We were all very happy while Cary Grant, yes, that was her name, was doing all the work, scrubbing, spider webs, childcare, ironing, green beans with fatback. We were all very happy, except Cary. When we moved and lost Cary, Mother was very angry. She meant to teach me to shut up and clean the house. But she was 5'2". She was the perfect sparring partner verbally. She inadvertently taught me to speak up. This doesn't work in a marriage. You have to use I statements. His mother trumps my mother, by the way, every day. Lambeth, I hate it when you wash the dishes before you put them in the dishwasher. Like I said, Waylon and I met on the internet. And when Waylon first saw me walk into that greasy spoon, he must have said to himself on some unconscious level, "This woman reminds me of my mother." He doesn't have a southern accent. Never mind. He still hasn't figured out it wasn't my smile. He thinks it was my smile. It was not my smile. I am not afraid to say anything. I just feel bad after I say it. Some of the time reminds him a bit of his mother. Of course, I'm nothing like his mother. Nevertheless, that's where you got your snakes. That's where you got your snakes. Just to be clear, our childhoods were pieces of cake in comparison to our parents. Pieces of chocolate cake. This is also true of our fathers. You've got your father, in this case, my father, extraordinary man. Extraordinary man, but he was whap, whap, Didn't seem like a big deal. The other kids at school are being belted. Then you have his father, also an extraordinary man, robbed a bank and ran off to Spain. One or two of these things are not true. Otherwise, I am being perfectly honest. Anyway, I can't say more. The rest of the family is still alive. Terry Gross doesn't seem to like it when you talk about the dead. But I'm going to talk about the dead. They're not dead, if I'm correct. They are coming and going from my kitchen. I talk to my father's spirit now and then. He doesn't care what I say, from what I can tell, or he's given up. His spirit did say recently, "Whatever you say, do not make it more likely you will get shot." By year 3 of therapy, you've got this whole thing populated. Here we have a rich alcoholic relative in Kansas. There's a secret child nobody knew about. You have this history of suicides in his family. On his side, no one would guess looking at him. People want to leave now. This is a tiny affair in comparison to his emotional affair, which is a big deal, which pulls everyone potentially out of the marriage. I didn't have any affairs. I just put this on this chart to be nice. One of these scout moms, by the way, so attractive in those little green shorts. So attractive. God knows what happens on these camping trips. The most annoying thing about couples therapy is the way therapists react to Waylon. I have taken him to my therapist. They all think there is something very problematic about Waylon until they meet him. Then they're all, oh, 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 oh. Even the men. My mother was the same way. "Hello, how are you, dear? May I speak to Waylon?" I thought couples therapy would be like putting the flour, Waylon, in the sifter, and the sugar, me, and the couples therapist would sift them together. But couples therapy is like putting 2 golf balls in one of these sifters. It's loud, and it doesn't work in my experience. Just try to refine the situation, but they don't grind down. And the therapist has his or her own personality. It's 3 golf balls in a room. We recently had 2 couples therapists. At first it was great because they had us appreciating each other 5 times a day. In a good marriage, it's 5 positive to 1 negative according to the research. This advice I am imparting to you is worth a minimum of $800. They had us wearing oximeters. In case one of us has a heart rate over 100, we need to stop the discussion and visualize blue light or some such thing. This is because if your heart rate goes over 100, you cannot possibly hear what your partner is trying to say to you about his last affair. This means these cats are getting paid $270 for a session in which nothing is happening. Everybody is watching the oximeters. If your partner is not in a really bad mood, one of the couples therapists is. Good luck keeping your heart rate under 100. We have Superman logos on our golf balls. And the logos will disappear in couples therapy. Nobody looks like a superhero. Marriage is made for humility. This is God's idea of a good time. grinding your concept of yourself as superhuman way the fuck down. Way the fuck down. By the way, the people who think they are superior to the humans in a marriage are your single folks. We think it is hilarious when these folks get married because people's core issues are wound very tight. Have you ever seen the inside of one of these? One long, endless rubber band. And you think you're going to undo this in your partner. Honey, believe me, you're not. I've been at this for 23 years. Everyone has irreconcilable differences. The fucking question is, as Waylon says, are you a fucking quitter? That may have insulted any number of people in the room. Listen, we should have quit a long time ago. This is year 10 of the marriage. The vagina is drying up. We have the estrogen creams, which can give you cancer, according to the box in the middle of the ads. The ex-wife is texting him. Father's Day, Christmas, Easter, thanking him for being the lovely human being he is. Some people in the family have guns. Lots of guns. And can you think of anyone better to shoot than a stepmother? But this time you have figured out a few things if you are lucky. None of these we learned in therapy. For example, as I mentioned, I statements. You have to use I statements. Our favorite is I fuck you. Fighting agreements. You create some rules for conflict. For example, what time of day you're going to have conflict. I like 9 to 4, Monday through Thursday. Family agreements. There are never any agreements over here. I'm just saying you're supposed to have some. And last but not least, you're supposed to lead with vulnerability. That Baster lady spent 23 years teaching me to lead with vulnerability. This means if you're really ticked off, you're supposed to either be vulnerable or put on an act that you're really in touch with the hurt under the anger. Good luck with this acting, Meryl. And just a note here, you have to ask a lot of questions of your prospective partners. Act like a filter or a sieve. I bet you're wondering, how long should I date someone before marrying them? 21.5 years. That's how long it took me to ask Waylon the following questions. Your kids are almost 35. How long do you intend to be a scoutmaster? And how much meth did you do before we met?
Hey, yay, yay, hey.
I just got to turn out one light that I forgot to turn out. Sorry. About 6 a.m. on a Tuesday, mid-April, my friend Ty calls. If you can get that gimpy leg over here in the next hour, I got a job for you. 5th grade, your favorite. Yesterday, they ran out the third sub in 3 weeks. And don't forget, you got to park out on that busy street. We don't got no parking lot, like the kids would say. I've injured my knee in a ski accident, and I'm sporting a Velcro cast. Most days I wear granny dresses to protect it and hide it a little bit. But I know that an injury like this could earn some points with kids, especially ones who are not going to like to see a new sub coming. When I get to school, Ty is standing in the hallway under the office sign. He ushers me into the inner office where a woman, about 50-ish woman, is sitting on the radiator, leaning back against the windows. Nancy, this is Gwen, our principal, Gwen Wilson. Gwen, Nancy. Ty tells me you can almost walk on water when it comes to kids. I don't know about water, but I like kids. Yeah, but he told me you were 25. You look 18 to me, and innocent as white snow. Do you know anything about ghetto schools? Well, my dad went to school in Pasadena at Longfellow and Muir High School, right down the road. And I went to high school in Pasadena. I am not looking at Ty because he knows that the high school I went to was a private girls' school on the southeast end of the more affluent side of town. Well, I'm going to have to give you a chance. We'll just see how long you last. We've Xeroxed some papers for you, and Ty will help you go to your room. Good luck. Oh, and Gwen, I'm going to tell Nancy that she can go on our field trip with us, the end of the trip, at the end of the year, the barbecue, and take any of the kids who earn points. She can use it as an incentive. That group on your field trip? Not going to happen, Ty. Not. I would not bet on it, Gwen. You had not seen Nancy in action with kids. As we walk down the hall, I now have time to look around and see just how dingy gray brown they are. And I'm thinking it might have been a nice brown 7, 8 years ago. And they're tall and narrow, noise echoing everywhere. But as we go down the hall, kids come up and say, "Hey, Gav, give me 5. How you doing, Gav? See you later." Well, at least I'm backed by the most popular teacher, I'm thinking. Get to my room. Ty opens it, hands me the key, and puts the stack of papers on the closest desk. 3 numbers you're going to have to remember. Number 12, Mr. Garrett. He's the one running what we call the opportunity room. Any kid that blows out, he'll take him down there and give them opportunity to do well. And number 12, and I'm 10, right upstairs. I got a good class. You got a problem? I'll come right down and help you. And of course, 0, the office. I'm betting you won't need any of us, but just in case. Oh, and by the way, you'll have 4 or 5 girls in the windowsills. I wouldn't mess with them. I'd figure that time. I go in, I erase the board and write my name, and I sit at a desk, at a chair nearest the blackboard, watching the kids pile into desks and windowsills. Nobody's looking super friendly. How you break your leg? You get in a fight? No, I was clumsy sliding into first base. I've decided not to call it softball and not mention skiing, as that's not a real popular sport in this neighborhood. Softball? No wonder you're falling. You're too old. You're too old. Another girl close to her says, "How long you going to stay?" Nobody stay long. They all hate us. We be bad. 7 weeks, I count. 7 weeks, 4 days till the end of school. And I plan to stay that whole time. A lot, because I want to go on the field trip with Ty. He's invited us, and you'll all be able to earn points to go. Field trip, says a boy near me. We be too bad. They don't let us go nowhere out of this school. We be too bad. Well, I don't believe that. I think I'll have a points chart set up, things you can do to earn points to go on the trip. I think you'll be able to do it. Not gonna happen, say about 7, 8 kids in unison. I've heard that before, I'm thinking. But what I say is, trust me, look at the point chart tomorrow. It'll be easy things like helping me keep the room clean and walking between the desks and not hitting anybody. You'll be able to do it. And then I hear from the back of the room, Wallace, that's your name? I go up and I write ASS. That's how I'd spell it if it were Wallace. Well, then it's Wallace, says a boy near me. Well, if ACE does spell ace, the top card that we'd all like to get. And if I said Wallace with the accent on the ace, it would be Wallace, but it's Wallace. I put the accent on the wall. Thinking probably too much information. Then I say, if there aren't any more questions, we got to take a fast roll. I got to get your names really fast to put the attendance out by the door. Then I'm going to go through and we're going to take more time. And I want each of you to tell me your name and to tell me whatever you want me to know about you. First, I hear from the window manager, Chandra, I hate this school. I hate everything about this school. I go right out that window if I want to, and not a damn thing you do about it. And don't you call my mama, because she don't care. Don't you ever call her. I get it, Cassandra, but I hope you'll decide to stay so you can go on the field trip with us. Girl next to her says, I'm Michaela. She be bad. She don't go, but I'm going to go. I'm going to the points. My mama do care. So I stay here. And I play softball. I could help you. I hear from almost everybody, and most of them do not like school. Though there are a few who do like recess, and there's several more who tell me they could help me with my softball deficits. I then say, I'm going to pass out papers to each of you. Some fun work, little reading, little math. And then while you're working, I'm going to come around and talk privately to each of you, just in case there's something you didn't want to say out loud, but that you would like to tell me. Get through the morning. After lunch, it's always my habit to read to kids because I think that it's relaxing. I find it relaxing. I love to read out loud. And a lot of kids like it. And sometimes the reluctant readers decide that maybe books aren't too bad after all. I brought 2 of my favorites, Wind in the Willows and Charlotte's Web. I don't have to say much about Charlotte's Web because 6 or 7 say they've read it and really liked it. Read it with other teachers. So when we vote, Charlotte wins. Last week, before the field trip, I make an appointment to go talk to Gwen and tell her that all the kids have made enough points to go on the trip. Cassandra, Michaela, I did not think your standards were that low. Gwen, they did about the best of anybody. I've got a lot of imp in me. And it was pretty clear I wouldn't have minded a windowsill. I was not too fond of school when I was in the 5th grade. Then what are you doing here teaching? Actually, I ask myself that question too, Gwen, some days. The field trip does go well. Mr. Garrett comes and just a backup. We all do great. And Gwen asks me back. 5th grade again, but I move upstairs. No windowsill availability up there. And as a new teacher, every week, I have to go across town to the east side for teacher orientation training. It's been a long time since I've been at Allen. So I'm kind of surprised. I drive up. It's on a quiet street. It's kind of up on a hill, and they've got a parking lot. And all around the parking lot, and going up to the school, there's neatly trimmed bushes. And as I walk down the hall to the library where we're meeting, I'm looking, and it's a pretty crisp, bright yellow. Looks to me it might have been painted last summer. And I walk into the library and full bank of windows, and I see grass out there. We got nothing but asphalt. And I asked the woman who's cleaning up stuff from the desk if she's the librarian. Yes, but only 3 days, but I love it. We don't got no library, I'm thinking, let alone a librarian. 3 days only. And as the meetings drone on, I'm thinking about that brouhaha of busing and integration that happened while I was in college, that somehow I thought was supposed to bring equality among all these schools. Don't ask me about ghetto schools, I want to say to Gwen. Talk to me. Explain to me, like Desi would say, explain to me this inequality of these schools that on this eastern end of town, they've got support personnel like the library, and I can see more materials, not to mention brighter paint and trees and a parking lot. The one thing they do talk about that's helpful is how to teach the increasing number of immigrant students that we have. I have Jean Paul from Lebanon, and Ty has 4 students from Vietnam. Of course, nobody talks about why that might be happening. So I keep my mouth shut about US imperialism. And I take some pointers about Jean Paul. Very happily, the first day of school, a tall Black student named Trevor sits right next to John Paul. And I can see he is fascinated that someone almost as tall as he is can't read one word. So I'll let them work together, and he's like the big brother teacher with Jean Paul's primers and easy reading books. And Jean Paul takes him home every night. He's going through at least 3 books a day. So Friday morning at reading time, Trevor asked me if there'd be some books he could take home. I cover easy 2nd grade books with brown paper. Couple days after Thanksgiving vacation, Trevor and Jean Paul come rushing into the room, and Trevor kind of has Jean Paul under his arm, guiding him in. He got a fight, Ms. Wallace. It was a bad fight. He's a good fighter. But I take him to the nurse. I help, and it's going to be okay. There's a little grin on Jean Paul's face, and I am grinning inside, ear to ear, because I'm so happy that Jean Paul has enough English now to get in a fight. And I think the friendship of these 2 kids is very helpful for both of them. All I say is, you did good with that, guys. After Christmas, on a rainy Friday afternoon, late January, we are putting away the scripts that we've been reading for a play that we're going to present to the class, to the whole school. And as we're putting them away, Trevor says, I bet I can act you better than you do yourself, Miss Wallace. Go for it, I say. Sounds fun. So I move away from my desk, and he nails me perfectly. The way I move books on my desk, the way I flip my hair, the way I write. And then he starts walking around the room. He drops Kleenex the way that I unconsciously do. And he's making similar motions through the room. And I am laughing. The kids are staring at me at first, not knowing how I'm going to take this. But when they see that I laugh the way I like to, so hard, I almost start to cry. And Trevor's capturing that too. They relax and they are laughing, and we enjoy the show. A couple of months later is May, the month of standardized tests in the state of California. Of course, the tests are grade level. None of my kids are. Gwen has announced that we are going to start testing on the 3rd Monday in May. That Sunday evening, there is a hate crime car bomb at a Vietnamese market about a mile southeast of Jackson. Mr. Min, spying the market, is getting into the car, take his kids home, when it explodes. He manages to pull his little daughter out of the car behind his seat, but he does not get around to the passenger side in time. The two brothers die. The next morning, the office is full of Vietnamese fathers clutching their children and asking if it's safe to come to school. Ty is the first teacher that Nguyen calls down to try to comfort the parents, to tell them that we will make it okay. Testing is canceled for Monday, and we're given a schedule for extra playtime outside, and Mr. Garrett and the school psychologists come around to rooms to try to help us talk to the kids. Lay low all day is Gwen's main message. Tuesday, we start with the easiest tests, some of the math that's usually easier for kids. Wednesday, finish out the easier tests. Thursday, we get to the reading. And I am watching Trevor and my other edgy readers very carefully. 23 minutes into the second test, Trevor pushes over his desk and gets up to pick up another one. Out of the room, I cried at the kids. And Jason, tallest one, you run and get Mr. Garrett fast. I'm in the hall, holding the door tight and telling the kids to move away to another class, in front of another class. Mr. Garrett comes loping down the hall, puts Trevor over his shoulder, and marches to the opportunity room. Get the balls, Mariah and Jason. We're going outside as soon as I call the office. At noon, I call down to see how Trevor is doing and when I can talk to him. Mr. Garrett says, come after school, because he's going to take Trevor home and not let him walk. When I get there, Trevor is huddled into a beanbag over by the bookcases, his head in his hands. I sit in a small chair near him. Mr. Garrett says you've had a great afternoon, Trevor. That could no test. I'm not taking no more tests. Tests? I am bad. I'm bad. No. Trevor, you're not bad. The tests are bad. Remember how many times I said that they would be hard and that we would just have to do the best we could. And you did, Trevor. You did the best you could. No, I'm bad. I almost hurt you. I almost hurt John Paul. I'm bad. You don't want me back. I'm bad. Trevor, we all make mistakes. You made a mistake. And that does not mean you are bad. We all do it. And the kids are asking about you. They want you to come back. Bad as I am, you do? Trevor, yes. I brought some books, and I hope you'll take them home and look at them and do a little tonight. And then tomorrow morning, stay here with Mr. Garrett. And if you feel like it, but only if you want to, then you come back to class after lunch so you can hear me read more in Tom Sawyer. You sure? I'll miss Tom Sawyer today. I like that. You good reader. We finish Tom Sawyer. Trevor and John Paul go off to middle school. I'm still in the 5th grade. Same classroom, same odds. The Friday before Christmas vacation, I get a call from the office that handles home teaching, because I'm on their list of home teachers. They want me to go work with Trom, the only child who survived the Vietnamese car bombing. The car bombing for the Vietnamese family, I should say. I push the doorbell against next to this big, heavy door, and it opens slowly. And there's Trong, barely 4 feet tall, with her transparent skin and 2 splints in her little nostrils. I see her father's hand right above hers, helping her open the door. Teacher, I learned to read. I bow, and Mr. Min says, thank you, Miss Wallace. And ahead of me, in the hall, I see the altar with candles, photos of the dead brothers, and incense, and a big brass bowl of fruit. I look across the room, and a woman about Mr. Min's age, holding a cup, bows, and I bow. We do this every day I come. Mr. Min brings me the tea. Trong is at the dining room table holding her book, Wind in the Willows. I've brought some books, of course teachers do, but we start with hers. We read every day, and I leave her homework, and it's always meticulously done. And I know how hard she is struggling to hold that pencil in those fragile hands to do the work. She just wants to learn. So I don't think anything about this horrible crime or her injuries until I get to the car. And then I usually have some tears. The same kind of tears that I see on my father's face if he's watching the news when I go to visit in the evening. Watching the flag-draped coffins bumping down painfully down the ramps of the planes. This is not what I fought for in World War II, Nancy. These young, innocent guys die in Vietnam. Most taxpayers couldn't find it on the map if they tried. And your kids, I don't hear they're doing as well as their grandparents did and me when we were in Pasadena in school. And now this car bomb? I don't get it, Nancy. I voted for Ike. I voted for him twice. I believe those promises. And they came true for some of us white people, but I'm seeing that was not equal. The more I see of this, the more I lose any of that hope that I had in the 50s when you were a young kid.
Yay. Yay. Yay.
So I'm reading an article by one of my academic colleagues in Holocaust studies. It's called Pieces of the Past, Souvenirs from Nazi Sites. And she quotes from a museum: "Buy a replica of our boxcar in the museum store. The museum proudly presents one of the remaining railroad boxcars used by the Nazis for the deportation of Jews. Moreover, donors who joined a platinum level of membership, $5,000 and up, received an original railroad spike from Treblinka in decorative pink packaging. An original railroad spike from Treblinka in decorative pink packaging. Voila. There are other souvenirs that one can acquire. Auschwitz at sunset on a postcard. A stick pin with a rose and barbed wire from Ravensbrück. A jacket with a leg bound in chains from Buchenwald. The Diary of Anne Frank as a refrigerator magnet. Now, don't get me wrong, I love souvenirs. Indeed, I'm a tchotchkeholic. I have a pencil sharpener designed as the US Capitol building. I have a plush toy ear of corn inscribed Nebraska that I picked up in Omaha. I collect miniatures of iconic buildings and monuments with those little thermometers attached. So I have the Empire State Building, Washington Monument, Eiffel Tower, Big Ben. Once returning from Europe, I was stopped at Amsterdam Airport. Apparently, security picked up the Eiffel Tower in my backpack. So I opened the back, looked around, and the inspector took out both the Eiffel Tower and Big Ben and said, looking at the Eiffel Tower, that, what is this? I said, the Eiffel Tower. And then I went off the reservation. I said, Big Ben can really do some damage. Mistake. I was detained and I missed my flight. But seriously, very seriously, an original railroad spike from Treblinka is not a souvenir. An original spike from Treblinka was part of the death camp itself. Yeah? It's not a memory of it. It's part of it. It's part of it. It's a relic of Treblinka. And it's certainly not a premium party favor. I've been teaching and writing about the Holocaust for 50 years. Most of my life since college. These things matter to me. I don't have a choice. Sometimes I wish I did. Over 3 years in the early 1980s, I had a conversation with a survivor of Treblinka. There were hardly any survivors of Treblinka. About the same number of people were killed there as in Auschwitz. But out of Auschwitz, roughly 70,000 people survived. From Treblinka, roughly 70 survived. And Victor was one of them. One day, he remembered working near the gas chambers, not that far from the railroad spur, which might have had some of these spikes. He recalled, I heard the shouts of the people, ah! And finished, ah! And finished. I didn't want to believe it. I'm trapped. I'm stuck in a wall, tall to the heavens. I cannot get out. And there will come an end to me too. When I heard about the Treblinka spike gifts, I thought about Victor. I even imagined him having dinner with the platinum donors. I mean, he was there. But would they even have him at their table? Victor was a line worker at a tire factory in Toledo. I don't think there's any chance they would have him at their table. Victor was used to keeping his outrage to himself and used to being disposable. He did not expect too much from this world. I have less control over what disgusts me, not only about the destruction, but about some of what has followed, including sordid souvenirs. I'm not the only one, of course. Googling around recently, I found an op-ed also aimed at this particular museum called Making a Carnival of the Holocaust. It also slammed the museum for wasting away in Chachkaritaville. Next thing on Google was the museum's response, really defense. And here's some of what they said. Those of us who are privileged to possess a genuine railroad spike from Treblinka, encased in lucite, display it in a prominent place in our homes. Now, thought experiment. Where in your homes would you display a genuine railroad spike from Treblinka? Where? Luckily for us, eBay has come up with a suggestion. We could think of it as a kind of serving suggestion, and I will show you what they indeed suggest. So, you see, get out of the way. Here are your bar stools. Yeah. So you could keep your Treblinka spike, which I assume was once belonged to one of the platinum donors, in your home bar or your lounge. Put on some music, set up a martini, flip around, admire your spike. Also, you can get it at a much better price than the platinum donors pay. So, and there is a sort of perverse sense in which booze and Treblinka go together. In any event, eBay has been busted a few times for marketing Holocaust artifacts. Of course, as you see, they call it an authentic World War II memorabilia object, not a Holocaust artifact. Anyway, the museum's letter continues. To many, the spike is all we have to honor the hallowed memory of those family members who perished in the Holocaust. All we have to honor the hallowed memory of those who perished in the Holocaust. Now, what kind of family is this? The killer's spike is all you have to honor the memory of parents, of children, of husbands, of wives, of grandparents, of uncles, of aunts, of kids, of cousins, of nieces, of nephews, of friends, of neighbors, of a town, of a life, of a world murdered in the Holocaust? Only the killer spikes? The museum was shamed. I shamed them too. And I don't take it back. I shame them not only for the spikes, but for the bullshit. Still, it's not easy to be this disgusted. It's not easy to be this angry. It's fun for what, maybe 15 seconds, maybe less. And I've learned change is nothing. So I decided I wanted to find out more. Well, to be fair, I'm not sure. But I did want to understand better what went into all of this. What went into all of this? So I contacted the museum. I didn't say why. I didn't want to scare them away. I didn't mention the spike, but I really wasn't intending entrapment. I really just wanted to understand more. It happens that I performed a play of mine at the same museum some years earlier, and by now, and by then, relatively well known in Holocaust studies. So I figured they'd get back to me. Well, they didn't get back to me. So I got back to Google and I discovered two interesting things. First, the museum decided to honor Steven Spielberg with one of the spikes for Schindler's List. And they were obviously proud of it. They flew out to LA and delivered it to him personally. But here's what's really interesting. I also learned that the museum director and founder was himself a Holocaust survivor. Now, he was never in Treblinka or any other camp. He got out of Germany in the 30s. Still, he would have known what all survivors know, which is the destruction of a world. Agi Rubin, the survivor with whom I was closest over all of these years, once said, "The life I was made to live is gone. I'm alive in another life." Still, being a Holocaust survivor provides no immunity from bad choices. I've known many survivors over these years who were the saints or near saints of popular imagination. And I've known a few who were the opposite. And most of the survivors I've known were a mix of everything, just like most of us. Surviving the Holocaust was not a meritocracy. Nevertheless, the fact that a survivor oversaw the distribution of these spikes to uber celebrities and mega donors does make all of this more challenging, more complicated, and more interesting. What was he thinking? How did this make it how was this okay or okay enough? Turns out the museum director is no longer alive. So I have to imagine what he might have said, and more particularly, what he might have said to someone like me. And this is what I imagine. You want to know why? Because it worked. It worked. We got a lot of support. People weren't doing it for the spikes. They were doing it for this place, this museum for what we are, for what we show, for what we teach. That's obvious. That's surface. Here's what is not surface. Think about the boxcar. Put yourself inside the boxcar. What is the last sound you hear? The last normal sound from this world. The train. The last sound from this world. After that, doors open, dogs barking, whips cracking, rouse, 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 out, 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 quick, quick, bodies pulling, beating, screaming, shooting. The sounds of another world, sounds of hell, sounds of a death planet, a dead planet. Sorted? Your word, sorted? Naked people made to stand in Polish winter, waiting to be gassed. Their feet freeze to the ground. They shit in terror. They shit on themselves. Guards stab them with sharp bayonets and swords. Shit and blood. People frozen to the ground, waiting to drown. Behind them, more trains, scores of trains. The last thing? No, not the last thing. The last thing was a curtain the Germans pillaged from a synagogue, which used to cover an ark containing Torah scrolls. They hung the curtain in front at the entrance of one of the gas chambers. And on the curtain was a Hebrew inscription from Psalm 118. This is the gate of the Lord, through which the righteous shall enter. And then the righteous entered the gas chamber. This is Nazi humor. Carnivals? You don't know much until you've been to a Nazi carnival. And one more thing. One more thing. The spikes are ours now. We've got them. We ripped them away. They're in our hands. In our hands. Trophies? Yeah. There are always trophies in war. And these are some of ours. We own them. We own them. We own them. No. It's not about our loved ones. You're right. It's not about our loved ones. We have many ways to remember. We think about them every day. This is not about loved ones. It's about hated ones. We have a bloody, burning piece of them in our hands, locked away. In our hands. We are ghouls too. Righteous ghouls. We pick at evil's bones. The museum director exists only in my imagination, and now perhaps in yours. It doesn't matter whether you agree with him. I don't, not even close, even though I gave him the best arguments I could devise. Still, the exercise showed me some things I would not have seen, not in him, but in myself. The Soviet army arrived at the site of Treblinka in August 1944. And this is what they saw. As you see, the fence is now bare, but at the time it was covered with foliage to prevent people from seeing inside the camp. It didn't matter. The stench of death was smelled from miles away. Polish villagers saw full trains going in, empty trains coming out. And you'll see the railroad spur has ties mostly missing, but there may be some spikes lying around. When I arrived on this scene in August 1944, I may have taken one of those spikes. At least I would have picked one up. Why? To have something to grasp, literally. Too simple. Too simple. I don't know why. But I think I might have taken one. I would not encase it in lucite. I would not give it to Steven Spielberg or platinum donors. I would not sell it on eBay. I would not display it in my home. I would hide it in a dark drawer. And every now and then, I might take it out simply to hold it or look at it or spit on it or scream or feel nothing at all.
Yay. Yay. Yay.
I'm working downtown in a San Francisco law firm in the mid 1980s. I'm the only woman in the firm who doesn't wear shoulder pads. Our client manufactures defective baby strollers. Imagine a woman with her baby joyfully jogging when suddenly the defective front wheel flies off. The mother and child are badly injured. Our client knew about this defect, but sold the strollers anyway. Now it's my job to get the client off the hook. I'm sitting in a stuffy, windowless room on the 25th floor of 101 California. I'm summarizing depositions, surrounded by a sea of legal documents because we're going to go to trial in 2 weeks. My neck and shoulders are killing me. This feels so wrong. I want to quit. I've despised my job. I'm afraid to start over. I went to law school to help people. This isn't helping people in any way that I imagined. I know what I want to do, but it feels impossible or beneath the woman who's earned her law degree. Finally, it's Friday night and I can go home and open that good bottle of Chardonnay. I'm lying in bed drinking when the phone rings. Eddie, my partner of 7 years, picks up. It's your Aunt Jean. Hi, Beth. Call your father right away. Your mother's had a heart attack. Bye, honey. That's weird. My mother doesn't have heart trouble. Hi, Daddy. Aunt Jean just... Shirley's gone and hung herself. She's dead. Daddy, how are you feeling? For Christ's sake, what kind of question is that? What kind of nut are you? I hang up on him. My mother was 64. She just went and did what I only dream of doing. I'm 34. If I don't change my life, I'm going to end up just like her. Next Friday, the leader of our law firm does drop dead of a heart attack. I'm in shock. I'm a wreck, so I quit. Eddie makes good money. He's a plumber. He can pay the rent. Staying home, I'm crawling out of my skin. So I take a job teaching children to swim. Anderson Swim School in Pacifica, California heats their pool to 85 degrees. When I teach a child to float, I hold their tiny neck and whisper, "Put your head on my pillow and take a nap." My shoulder is their pillow. The warm water lifts their limbs, and we hold on to each other. After my shift ends, I drive back to San Francisco, collapse, get up, and do it again. Holding on to children in warm water is one way to begin again. In between my students, I float. I flash back to when I was 3. My father threw me in the deep end of the pool and screamed, "Swim!" I went down, rose up, gasped for air, grabbed the wall. Somehow, I got safe. Teaching at the pool, I catch a lot of colds, so I quit again. I feel this constant punching in my gut, so Eddie takes me to an acupuncturist who massages inside my mouth. He says, grief lives inside the body, not far from the throat. Is that why Mama hung herself? Meanwhile, Eddie has a sudden religious conversion in our living room. He says, God is living in our backyard, and I'm not going over to introduce myself. Then he announces he's leaving me to live in Fiji with his crazy guru. I am so screwed. It's Friday night in San Francisco, and I walk into a bar. I'm waiting in line to pee. A handsome football player standing right next to me. I blurt out, "You want to fuck?" Sure, why not? The fuck is sordid, but what did I expect? Grief lives inside the body. I think sex with strangers might help me get it out. After Eddie and Mama left me, I make my bucket list. World travels at the top. I arrive in Greece, but the water is too cold to swim in. So I ask an American woman living on the beach, "What about Turkey?" She looks at me as if I'm half crazed. A tall American blonde traveling alone? That's not safe. The next morning, I'm on the ferry to Turkey. I'm reading the Midnight Express. It's the true story of a young American man who was busted in the Istanbul airport for smuggling hash. He got life in prison, in a Turkish prison, and after 5 brutal years, he escapes. I arrive in Turkey terrified, but I board a bus anyway for the center of the country. I'm the only woman on the bus. At 2:30 a.m., I'm woken up. A man is groping my breast. Stop! Then the bus driver taps me on the shoulder and says, "You, off the bus." I'm walking down a pitch black road. This is before cell phones, wondering just how will this end, when a taxi stops and the driver says, "Get in." He drives me to a safe inn. It's a miracle or a mystery, I don't know which, that I'm not hurt. That this happens gives me such a huge blast of faith and the confidence to start my own massage business. I'd always wanted to do it, but I was too afraid. After Turkey, I'm not afraid anymore. A man calls to book his first massage with me. I arrive at 10 p.m. at his multi-million-dollar mansion by the San Francisco Bay. "Tell me a story," he says to start his massage. No man has ever given me this much artistic freedom. Once upon a time, there was a woman who wanted to go to Greece. But when she arrived, the water was too cold. So she traveled alone to Turkey. Was this woman you? I don't answer him. She travels to the Blue Lagoon, meets Tarkan, the young Turk. His father runs the mafia, so she doesn't pay for anything. By day, she swims topless in the sea. and receives massages from young Turkish men lying by the lagoon. By night, she belly dances in open-air restaurants and makes love in lace curtain rooms while live Turkish music wafts in. Tarkan gets jealous, so she must escape to Istanbul. The man listens to each and every word I say. He asks me back for more massages, but I cannot go again. I have given him my most treasured travel gems, better than if I had given him my body. He keeps calling me late at night to talk. Our conversations about music and movies are so pure. He's a fine photographer. I fantasize about living in his opulent, white light-filled home and swimming in his pool overlooking the Golden Gate Bridge. I know I'm being used and I'm just the hired help to him, but that my stories mesmerize him thrills me no end. The last dinner with my mother at the Sizzler Steakhouse in San Diego, she touched my cheek and said, "Beth, your skin is so beautiful. I'm sorry I never told you that." 2 weeks later, she was dead. 10 years later, Daddy's in assisted living, lying on his deathbed. I lightly massage his limbs. I hear these little sighs of pleasure only I can give him. Maybe he feels some relief from his grief when I touch his skin. I never married, so I'm a failure in his eyes. He never heard how deep and high I lived. He never got over mother's suicide and died a bitter, broken man. My yoga teacher's only son died of a mysterious mental illness. He was only 25. She asked me, "Just how did you survive your mother's suicide?" I'm surprised no one's ever asked. I used my body in a lot of different ways. She nods as if she understands, but most likely she does not. On Fridays, I love to dive into the icy Pacific Ocean just beyond the Golden Gate. I kick hard, rise up, and fall beneath the waves. I listen to the mother's heartbeat. I savor every second
of swimming in the swell. I wonder, does Mama know how much her exit empowered me to live?
Hey, hey, hey. Thank you all very much for coming. Thanks to the performers tonight, and good night, everybody.
Okay, join out. Okay, join.